Hey guys, and welcome back to Zero Wing. We got all the important stuff out of the way in the first episode, so now we're back on our old off-topic bullshit. So Flame, what have you got to bring to the table in this, the most arcade of games we've played in recent months?
Well, for this is like a deceptively difficult part there when you gotta sort of edge your way up, because like going diagonally with the Mega Drive controls, it's a thing you can do, but it's also not particularly reliable, so that's why I edge forward, edge up, edge forward, edge up, like a stair-step kind of thing. It is a lot more difficult than it looks.
That's a good point. What controller did you use to actually record the game? Because I always use my 360 one, and that thing can't detect diagonals worth a shit for some reason.
When I'm recording emulated footage like this, I tend to use my DualShock 4.
Okay.
Which is much more practical. Given you have a PS4, I have no idea why you're still using the fucking 360 controller, given that's kind of terrible for side-scrollers.
It is, yeah, and, well, I did Mega Man's 1 to 6 with that fucking D-pad, so I'll thank you to grant me a little bit of respect. But Volk, you were telling me a bit about Zero Wing and popular culture before we started, and you're saying it actually got onto, what was it, Fox News or CNN at one point?
It was Fox News Chicago, I believe, and they were literally going like, there's a strange internet saying going around, and they were literally flashing pictures over the, as like, the guy talking in the background, the reporter, that's the word I was looking for, was talking about, there's a strange thing going around, and people are saying, all your base belong to us. We have no idea why.
Oh god, now Saddam's saying it. Where did he get that from?
Yeah, I seem to recall hearing at one point, like, people had, like, hacked into, you know, like, display messages, like, on traffic, like, warnings and stuff, and just have it say, all your base belong to us, and at one point that got mistaken for, like, legitimate terror threats.
Jesus.
God damn.
Crazy world we live in. It's, like, pretty much I think it may have been, like, one of the first, like, real memes that ever really came to fruition. Like, there wasn't really that much else for a long while until, of course, the meme, like, buzzword, I suppose, got made popular, and nowadays we just attach it to everything that's remotely funny.
When did the meme actually come about? Because I was saying to you, it must have been in the early days of the internet going mainstream, for sure.
I believe it came about from some Newgrounds posts, like late 90s, early 2000s kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Man, Newgrounds, back in the day. I haven't been on there in a number of years. Like, the most exposure I have to it is seeing, like, video recordings of it in certain Only playthroughs, because obviously he's an animator. He must have been on Newgrounds back in the day with Eager Raptor and so on. But I remember just catching a bit of time during school, going on Newgrounds, looking at cartoons and whatnot. There was like the Ultimate Battle of Ultimate Destiny. That was a big meme back then.
That was pretty fun, yeah. I don't remember that much from like the early days. Like, I remember the All Your Base, and there's a few other things. Like, I think it was an albino black sheep one, that llama thing, wasn't it? That's the other early meme that I remember.
There's a lover, and another little lover, fuzzy lover, duck. I would sing the whole thing, but I imagine I'd be probably kicked off HFC if I did.
Especially given it loops infinitely, and we've got like 20 minutes here.
That's just going to be the entire third part.
Oh, fucking damn it.
But no, back in my schooling days, eventually they caught on to the fact that Newgrounds was a widely popular website, as well as Miniclip. So we kind of had to go to the more obscure websites. So gprime.net was one that I frequented quite a lot during the school hours, and another one, which was also a rather popular site at the time before YouTube became a thing, was YTMND.
Oh yes, you're the man now, dog.
Where they did the whole, we didn't start the website.
Oh yeah. So the thing with your man now, dog, is that is such a, like, random as fuck approach to things, and it's like one of the earliest things I can think of like surreal internet humour that would make no sense to anyone outside of it.
Well, YTMND was pretty much a breeding ground for that sort of thing. You had all sorts of people trying to make things like that, hoping to be the next big thing.
Oh, and now we have YouTube, which is completely oversaturated, and everyone's got a Patreon. Wink. Wink. Well, stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned. Oh, I hope no enemies come down this extremely tight corridor, and they actually didn't. Not even on hard mode. Interesting.
they didn't, although that guy that I did have to be a bit kind of careful about does try to follow you down, and I think he might try to overtake you, I'm not sure, which would obviously hurt you.
What the fuck?
This is where they start getting a bit more aggressive with their shots, because he has, you can see there's 3 different kind of things, each with their own patterns, and so you've got to kind of be on the ball with your multitasking a little bit.
No, graphically speaking, it looks like the cannon is firing Yorkshire puddings at you.
He looks like that fucking boss from like early on in Sonic CD, the one that walks forward, walks back, walks forward, walks back.
Oh, with the bumpers.
And does nothing else.
Yeah, the guy with like the weird chicken dance sort of thing with the bouncy puncture pads.
Yeah, for sure.
This, I will say, I do like the layers visually going on here. Like, you can see, I don't know if that's meant to be like water or just like other blue grassland, I'm not sure, but I don't know, this game's visuals really do bring it to life, which, given the other games I've seen footage of, like Volk mentioned Hellfire, I don't remember that looking quite as like developed in terms of its world. Like, granted, that has been something I've only seen briefly.
From my recollection, the backgrounds weren't nearly as varied in Hellfire as they were in Zero Wing. So that's one thing that Zero Wing does have over Hellfire in that regard.
Did it make up for it in the gameplay department then?
Oh yeah, absolutely, because the way that Hellfire works is that rather than you collect a different power-up, and that's basically the weapon that you use until you collect another one, like with R-Type, or I guess with Gradius by a slightly more narrower association, you actually get access to all your weapons as you pick them up, and you can switch between them like you can in Thunder Force. But rather with the Thunder Force, where the weapons are all slightly different visually, with Hellfire it's more like you've got a front-firing weapon, a back-firing weapon, and then you have one that fires like in a plus situation and another one that fires on your diagonals. And the enemies come at you at all sides, so it's not just they're all coming in from the front or maybe above and below.
Okay.
They will come from behind as well, so you got to really think about like which type of weapon you use and when. So I think it may have won out over Zero Wing just because the gameplay elements were a bit more intense thanks to it being balanced around that weapon switching mechanic, whereas Zero Wing is a bit more safe, I would say.
Yeah, well, it's got the crazy story, so maybe they wanted to have their cake and eat it as well. They wanted people to have a good story and be able to experience it all the way through, even on the higher difficulties.
Well, to my recollection, the story was like completely just bullshitted together when they brought it out on the Mega Drive. I don't think the arcade one had anything like that. Although I know the PC Engine version actually has a different opening cutscene entirely. Like, it's got like much more anime sort of art style to it. I have no idea what's going on because I've only ever seen it in Japanese, but hey. I think like the general setting's the same, like you got the same characters, like the cat's like leader guy and your dry pilot and the Zig and stuff, but I think it just takes it in a different direction.
Interesting.
But again, trying to like grab meaning from Japanese only stuff, I'm not that good at that.
No. So, how was your day, Volk?
Well, you know, I had lunch, had a bath, came on here to do some comms over a shmup game which I am relatively keen on, and also has the epic meme, so you know, I'm having a good time so far.
Good, I don't actually care about you, Flame. No, you're not talking, I'm talking. I don't care about your day, nor your existence, so...
Sorry for trying to actually talk about the game here.
Oh, what kind of commentary group talks about the game? You're having a laugh!
Yeah, no, but what I was going to say is these blue things are actually quite difficult to dodge because like I was lucky I had that bomb there that sort of protected me, because when you've got them firing out with these 3 pellets and there's like 2 going counterwards towards each other, that is really difficult to weave in and out, and this is probably one of the parts where it took me the longest just to get a rundown.
Yeah, the spaces are getting more and more enclosed and plenty more bullets. Am I right in thinking that your 2 like cannons have their own hitbox and they're invincible?
They're like shields, so yeah.
Okay, right.
Which, that was one of the first things that we picked up, like, in terms of upgrades. I think it was the first. You get that with the first red one you pick up.
Okay.
And they are really necessary. I believe you do lose them if you die, though, and you're back to the raw setup. Although, one thing I will say is this game is actually quite generous in terms of checkpoints. Like, if you die, you are going to spawn back in basically the same place, which does make it a little bit more accessible. And I think, off the top of my head, this is one of those games where like lives are completely redundant, because continues put you back in the same place as well.
Interesting.
More just a formality than anything else. I mean, most games have lives, so I suppose they thought, well, we can't just not have lives.
Okay, I've got a list of internet phenomenon here, and we're gonna go through it just because I think we've hit a bit of a speed bump. Beanie Babies. They were cited as being the world's first internet sensation in 1995. I had a few of them back in the day because I love cuddly toys and whatnot. I don't think I had any of the rare ones though.
No, didn't they have like a partnership with McDonald's at some point to give some of them away? I seem to remember getting some off for that, although that might have been something different.
No, I think you may be right, or maybe it was an off-brand version. Alright, I'm going down here, I'm going down. The Shake Weight, famously parodied in South Park. You got Will It Blend. I'm not sure if they're still around, but basically they had a series called Will It Blend, where they put like food and non-food items in the blender, and they just try to see if it'll blend or not.
Meme smoke, don't breathe this.
Axe Cop, I remember Axe Cop, man. Is that still going? I heard it got a series last time I checked.
I believe you're correct, although the exact details of it kind of escape me. But as far as I'm aware, it's either still going or has had at least a season's run or two.
Yeah, it was created by a 5-year-old and his 29-year-old brother, at least at the time of me reading this, did the drawings and whatnot. So you've got this really gorgeous artwork, and then just like, I have an axe and I will chop off your head. Bam! Go to hell.
I have no idea what the fuck this is, but it sounds fascinating. What other epic memes have we got on your list?
Salad Fingers, a really creepy flash animation series.
Oh, I remember him. I just showed that to my friends because, of course, not many people like knew of all the like cool spots in the internet. So I'd start off by showing them that, just put some worry into their head, and just like, wait, what the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah, we have the Dancing Banana with the song Peanut Butter Jelly Time by the Buckwheat Boys.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
Oh yeah. God, how can we stretch this out for 7 more minutes?
Well, I could talk about how this experience compared to other shmups.
Okay.
So, Zero Wing is indeed one of the easier ones that I have played. You know, everything tends to be quite on the large side, so the chance of you missing something isn't necessarily very high. Like, you'll generally always be able to spot an enemy as it comes at you. That, and also the pace is more familiar with other shmups. I mean, this is about, I would say, the average kind of scroll speed if you're going through a game like, say, R-Type, and even Gradius. I mean, Gradius only had odd moments where it sped up, like in like 1 or 2 stages in the game. As far as other stages I played, I think Thunder Force is probably the most fast-paced shmup I have played.
Well, you'd want it to be for a game called Thunder Force, wouldn't you?
Yeah, true that. Yeah, I love the hell out of that game. Even though I'm not that great at it, I love playing it. Like, the fast pace is just so refreshing compared to the more casual, laid-back, relaxer 40 miles an hour approach that we get in most shmups.
I'm kind of butthurt that they didn't put Barricade Zone in Sonic Mania. I feel like it's wasted potential.
Oh god.
As far as the hardest shmup I play on the Mega Drive, that would definitely have to go to Gynook, or Wings of War. As well as having some disturbing imagery, and you can look this up if you've never heard of it before, because it is well worth it just to see some of the bosses in that game, because my god, some of them are gross and are probably just hilarious to look at in today's day. But that game is hard as balls. I mean, apart from the fact that obviously if you die, then you lose your power-ups, and then you have to come back and do it all again. The enemies are, generally speaking, pretty damn fast. Some of them are also really small too, so they can be pretty hard to find in a bubble. A lot of the bosses especially are just balls to the walls hard towards the end. They just fire shit tons of projectiles at you with no real pattern per se. It's sort of like in a cone, but like the bullets could be anywhere within that cone, which can make it a bit difficult.
Yeah, I think that's why I don't play shmups, at least ones that don't follow a pattern, because, man, I know my OCD would just destroy me if I couldn't practice it and get it down pat.
With that one, even though there are random elements, you can still kind of tell roughly where the attack will be. It's more of a case of trying to get into attack afterwards, that's the problem.
For us, because I seem to recall reading something about this, but I may be completely off whack, but wasn't it these Tower Plan guys, the developers for this, who are also behind that Dodonpachi series?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. I seem to recall hearing some inklings about that as well, but I haven't really been able to pursue news there. Anything to do with this developer here is usually in involvement with Zero Wing and Hellfire. And those that seem to be like the main two games that they seem to be known for.
Oh, Tower Plan aren't around anymore. They vanished after bankruptcy. That's a weird way of putting it. Vanished after bankruptcy. What have they got here?
They just disappeared.
Yeah, they just fucking disappeared. Their first game was in 1984. It was Jongu, and it was published by SNK. Then we have Before Man, Tiger Hell, Jeonkyu, Get Star / Guardian, Slap Fight, Mahjong Sisters, scroll down a bit, Hellfire in 1989, Zero Wing, well, in the same year as Hellfire, actually. And the last game was in 1994, and that was Otenki Paradise, otherwise known as Snow Bros 2, with new elves.
Oh, so maybe they weren't. Although, like, the reason I say that is I seem to recall hearing something about one of those games having a cameo of, like, the little mascot character from this game, which we'll see later on in the playthrough.
It won't surprise me.
Wait, what was the game you said?
Dodonpachi.
Dodonpachi.
I might be pronouncing that completely wrong. It's a bullet hell that I played briefly on the 360 a couple of years back.
Yeah, I think you're completely full of shit, to be honest with you.
Yeah, maybe. That's what I'm here for.
Actually, that's another series I've had the chance to play quite a few of, and that is the Parodius series, which is made by the same dudes who are responsible for Gradius, but they do have a lot of pop culture references to other shmups and other, like, Konami games in the series. And Parodius kind of just started out as just in general a parody of side-scrolling shooters, and they just threw in just completely random shit.
Okay.
And then they started coming up with, like, themed Parodius games, like Sexy Parodius is probably the most infamous. No, literally, I think it was the first boss of Sexy Parodius is literally like an entire ear of corn with lipstick on, and you have to shoot it and it turns into popcorn.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have nothing to add to that.
I like getting a bit of popcorn whenever I go to the cinema, but I don't ever consider that arousing, per se.
Hey, I mean, someone's into everything.
Oh my god, Flame,
The
shut up.
Parodius games are just known for their just innate craziness. Like, sometimes it makes sense, most of the time it just flat out doesn't, and it's more just a case of they go with a theme and, like, stick with it more or less the whole way through, and then just throw in some bosses that were perhaps famous or infamous in other side-scrolling shooter games. But yeah, if you ever get the chance, just have a look at a playthrough of a Parodius game. Sexy Parodius preferably, but you can basically pick any one, and it's just an absolute treat to watch. You'll be there just with an eyebrow raised the entire way through, just thinking, what the fuck was Japan doing?
Volk is here with recommendations for all the popcorn fuckers among us.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's still a good time. I mean, the gameplay still holds up, even if it is a bit balmy.
I love how Flame kink shames when earlier he was saying, oh, don't criticise, whatever floats their boat, right?
Hey, like, there are some things that are worth kink shaming.
What the hell am I looking at here?
It's the vibrating cube boss.
Yeah, some kind of wall enemies that just gradually get closer to you, but they only seem to shoot forward, whereas I can shoot in multiple directions, so fuck them, I guess.
Well, that's the limitations of the game, I suppose. Alright guys, we'll see you next time for the finale of Zero Wing, when we kick cats in his cyborg face. See you then.